Friends, welcome back to another video. My name is Emma Lefebvre, and today we are talking all about leaf placements in our watercolor bouquets and how to get them to flow the way you want them to. So let's jump right in and start. Okay, so today we are going to be breaking down floral bouquets and leaf placement. So this can be a tricky thing to kind of grasp just at the beginning when you're brand new to florals and loose florals especially. So I'm going to show you the first way of how you might be doing it as a beginner and why it's not working or looking as good as you want. And then I'm going to show you the way that I do it. There's more than one way to do it. This is just kind of how I find my flow with my floral bouquets. So I'm just painting in my Etchr Lab cold press watercolor sketchbook. I have my Winsor & Newton professional watercolors. I also have my Emma Lefebvre Craft Mo brushes in my size 12 and 6 round, and we're ready to go. So first I'm going to show you, I'm just going to paint some really quick flowers. And usually, like I've said before in my composition videos, I tend to do 3 or 5 flowers. I like odd numbers. I feel it looks better and flows better instead of having 1, 2, 3, 4. It's more pleasing to the eye to be asymmetrical than completely symmetrical with an even number, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to do like a little generic rose here. I'm not going to make it too great. We're not working on technique of the shapes just yet. Or in this video, we're going to focus more on placement. So I usually have my rose. And remember, I like color bleeds and when it's like super loose. So I usually tend to work fast so my flowers can bleed into each other. I'm just going to add a little bit of darker pigment, just making this really quick, like that. Let's do a pink flower this way. This is just kind of like my default go-to small bouquet, okay? See, I like having them close together. And then I usually do one down below. Let's make it like a purpley pink. I don't know. Okay, we'll just make it like even like a little bud. Ooh, that's bleeding a lot. That's okay. Okay. So maybe like a little peony or something. Super, super simple, kind of messy. It's all good. All right. So where am I going to put the leaves? First of all, I like to have my flowers nice and tight together. And then I like to have the leaves around. So what I see a lot with beginners is they will try and do their leaves coming out like how I do. But one, they're making them straight like this, sticking straight out. And 2, they're making the leaves too far away from the flowers. And it just kind of looks like odd, right? And really kind of rigid. Okay. And they have this like long white space where this stem is. So I'll usually say, you know, like go in between the flowers. But what I see is just too much white space of the stem. And it just looks a little like, not as like a little full bouquet. It looks a little bit too spaced out. Or even if they add, let's say we add another flower. Okay, and then it's like down here. Let's say there's like a little bud or something like that down here. And then maybe one up here. Okay, and then they get their green. And then there's like this white space. It just looks odd, right? It's not bad. It just doesn't look as full as it should. So the first problem is having the stem that's just really straight. Like you can have it come out of anywhere. Usually my go-to are right in between the 3 flowers. But if your stem is too far away, then it can look a little wonky. I'm going to quickly show you some of my old work to show you what I mean when I was a beginner. And this is a prime example of this. Like, first of all, this is Canson watercolor paper. This is from 2016. But like, look how long my stems are, and there's all this white space, and it's like just so spread out in between each leaf. The flowers bunched together aren't bad. I tried to fill in those little areas with these little purple flowers, but still all I feel like I can see when I'm looking at this are these stems, and that really shouldn't be the focus. It should be more of like the flower and just like the bunch of leaves kind of flowing together. Okay, so this I showed in a video because then I redid it, and this was the difference, the outcome. So I'm going to show you how to go from this to this kind of, okay? So that's that. See, I was a beginner too, okay? So let's redo these flowers down here now, and I'll show you how I kind of go about it. Also, if you don't do your flowers that close together, I probably should have done them a little further apart to show you what not to do necessarily, but I like when they bleed together and they kind of look like a nice bouquet is nice and bunched together. You know what I mean? It's tight, it's rounder, it's not like a vase composition where there are like flowers in a vase where sometimes they're like bending over, or, you know, they're a little further apart. In a bouquet, they're nice and tight together usually. Okay, so let's do another same kind of thing. Okay, here's our rose again. Our rose. Have a little bit of contrast with a bit of darker pigment in the middle. I'm going as fast as I can. It's not great. It's all good. Okay, and then some pink. And really, you can do whatever flowers you want. Okay, I have them close together. They're not even really bleeding here into each other, which I usually like, so I might just wet that back up just to, whoopsie, dripped from my brush. It's all good. And then purple. I actually might leave a little bit of space there to add a little bit of greenery there. This isn't a great example of good flowers, but it's not the point right now. Okay, this is like super fast, messy flowers. Okay, now I'm going to show you how I would place the leaves. So like I said, in between the leaves, or in between the flowers, 1, 2, 3. Okay, what I like to do first is, because I do like those color bleeds, I'm moving too fast. I like to go, while it's still wet, touch it a little bit, and then go right into a leaf. See how close that is? And then I'll do another one. I'm not focusing on one stem going all the way out first. This way. And I usually like to have it curve around the flower. So you see this leaf is curving around that one. This one is curving around this one. Okay, these ones closer. Closer. Now, if your flowers are still dry and you get kind of like this layering effect that you don't necessarily like, don't go as close. So I'll try not to touch the flower necessarily. I'll do a tiny little stem and then do it just beside. Have this one curve around that one. Okay, so see how they have them curving around the flowers to really kind of bring it together. And then I want to go out a little bit further, right? So I'm going to now do more of a stem, but not too much. Like that. Little stem. It's like almost touching, or can even be touching just a little bit. Like so. Okay, but now it's like we have a triangle of leaves. That might look a little weird. So how do we make it look a bit more rounder and fuller? We want to put leaves over here, but you know, we want them to curve nicely and flow nicely. So because I feel like it would look a little bit, I don't know, just too much if they were all this saturated, I tend to go for a lighter wash. So I'll have some come out here maybe and just make it lighter. And again, I'm still curving around. Curving around. Have one come up this way. And I just have a lighter wash so it's not as visible. It's still framing it nicely, but not being the focal point. You want the focal point to be the flowers. Okay, so I have a nice light wash of my color. And also what I like to do, which I'm going to show you quickly before it dries, just to give these leaves a bit more depth. I'm just going to wet these back up. I like to go back in with a bit darker green. It might be too dry already. Just to add a little bit of depth to my leaves so they don't look too like flat and one-dimensional, you know, like that. It just kind of adds a little bit of something. Okay, so we're curving around. Here's a space, curve around with a light wash, and you don't have to do that around the full leaves. Okay, we can even change up the leaves too. Let's do like more of a eucalyptus-y color. So I have like this darker bluier green. Okay, again, I'm going light. Okay, I'm gonna do one there, one there, one there, and then I might add a little stem. Okay, so I'm filling up that area, and it's light enough that it doesn't look weird that there's just like a stem right there, because I'll show you really quickly what that will look like if it's dark and there's a random stem coming out of here. It just looks a little like, where's that stem coming from? So I like to make it a little bit lighter, like it's fading kind of out. And we're just filling in those spaces. Okay, but I like to do a light wash just so it's not as much of a focal point. And then like, I just kind of look for a little bit more space where I could add more leaves. And I also try to add a bit of contrast. Actually, hold on, I forgot I left that part here. You can just add a little bit of green in there. You can even do that when it's a little bit wet so it bleeds into a bit of the flowers. So we have like a bunch of big leaves, but now I like to frame it even more with a bit of contrasting smaller, darker leaves. Okay, so I'll grab like a dark green and I'll just go in between these leaves, do a little stem there, stem there. And again, I'm not doing them like far apart where it looks spread out. You're kind of still doing it closer together. Over here, just look for those little white areas that feels like it needs a bit of filler. And I'm just using the tip of my brush and just dabbing. And it's going one way, but I feel like it could go another way too. So maybe I'll add another one over here. Step back, take a look at your composition. Does it look too full, or does it look too bare? Does it look kind of odd? Like there's a little random white space here. I could fill it in with a little bit of like 2 little leaves like that, just to fill it in and make it a little bit more lush. Usually where 2 leaves are kind of folding around the other way, I like to add in. So here we have a leaf going that way, a leaf going that way. I'll add in a little bit of smaller foliage. Okay, and you can just keep going if you like. You can stop. You can do lighter little buds or lighter whatever you want. But yeah, so my number 1 tip is go close to the flowers. You don't have to overlap or have them bleed, but just go close enough that they look like a nice tight bouquet, not a lot of white space like this. 2, have them curve around the leaves, not sticking straight out. Okay, have them bunched together and curving around those little spaces. All right, and then 3, add some lighter wash ones to kind of like the outer bit. So have maybe the darker ones in between the 3 or 5 main flowers, and then a lighter wash on the outside to frame it nicely without taking away too much of the focus point from the flowers. And then 4, did I say 4? I don't remember. Just adding in those little fillers for any kind of awkward little white spots is where I go. And that's just like my default bouquet, okay? So this isn't how you necessarily need to do every bouquet if you don't want them to look the same, but this is just kind of like my default go-to how I do a floral composition. So I hope that was a bit more helpful. This is a more round bouquet. Sometimes I will add the 5 flowers, so I'll do 3 and then do one here, or maybe even smaller, and they'll be like cascading across the page. And again, you're just going in between those flowers with the leaves, nice and close and tight. Just try to avoid these long, awkward, stemmy leaves just sticking straight out where they're super far apart. It just looks really awkward and kind of odd, right? It doesn't flow as well as you'd like it to. So those are my tips, and I hope that was helpful. If you guys have any more questions, ask below. And if you want to really get into a conversation and ask more specific questions, show me your work, you can always look me up on Instagram. It's always down below in the description, and I'd love to see what you guys are doing and hear any of your struggles or concerns. Thank you guys so much for watching my video. I really hope you liked it, and I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on Instagram for even more. Have a great day, guys. Bye!